Alright, welcome back guys. This is part 5, I believe, of this one drawing series that I've been working on for the whole day, pretty much, because it's basically all I set out for myself to do today was to crank out as many episodes of this as I possibly could and have them available for you guys to watch. So I just started doing the inking. I've been using the ballpoint pen, like I said in the previous video, just lining with that first. I'm going to take these headphones off because I feel like they might make me talk funny. Alright, so I'm going to continue doing that. In the last video I talked about critiques, and I talked about art college a bit, and that whole experience. I always sound a little bit negative when I talk about art college, but I don't really have an extremely strong opinion that like you should or shouldn't go to art college. I feel like that's definitely a personal decision. That if you guys are thinking about that, or if you are currently living that right now, like that's your life choice. And I made the choice to go for a couple like personal reasons. But it was a very expensive decision. But I'm not going to tell anyone that like you shouldn't do that yourself. The biggest things that you need to think about, if you're planning on going, or if you enjoy art enough that you might want to have that be your actual career path, I would think about your budget. I would think about like, can you really, well, you can't, no one can afford college, but just think about it. What I look back on now is the time that I spent in college would it have been spent better if I had just been making art all of those 4 years on my own, or would I have not had the guidance or the drive to do that myself? And those are things that you have to think about yourself as a person. Are you a driven person? Are you not a driven person? Do you feel like you need guidance and assignment, and like a mentor, or like multiple mentors? Or do you think that you're like pretty much self-sufficient and you can figure it out on your own? You don't like to be told what to do, because you're not probably going to enjoy college if you are that kind of person, and if you don't enjoy school in general now, you probably won't enjoy college either, and then you'll have to deal with paying for it rather than how high school is technically. You don't have a tuition for that, so if you mess up, you don't feel as bad. When you mess up in college, you feel pretty bad, because that's a lot of money down the toilet. Getting a little bit sidetracked on that train of thought, but basically, if you're going to go to art college, that's on you. I don't have a very strong opinion of it either way. It's kind of a take it or leave it kind of thing at this point. For a while, I was very against it. Or not very, but like, I was pretty strongly disappointed and opposed to the idea, and wished that I had saved my money, or had spent 4 years working on art for myself and making my craft and my, what I was working on personally better than working on assignments for classes that maybe didn't really pertain to my interests at all, and having to pay for those classes. Because when you go to art college, at least at mine, I'm not going to speak for all of them, but when I went, we also had to take classes like biology, English, literature, all that jazz. And yes, it can inform your work, it does make you a smarter person, and it does educate you, but sometimes when you're there to do a very specific thing, like better your artwork, it can be very frustrating to have to go read a book about, I don't know, Hinduism or something that you're just, you'd rather work in the studio or get an assignment done that is going to take you a good handful of hours to do. But you got to write an essay about the tides changing or something completely unrelated. So it was kind of like a high school 2.0 sometimes at that college, but it was other pretty decent experiences. Like we got to do some cool stuff and learn some cool things, and at least like the professors who were doing extracurricular type stuff, they like understood how artists were. Like they understood that we were very preoccupied with our work and kind of temperamental about that. So they're pretty lenient with us. Like we had a math class, but it was pretty much just like a math theory class, which was pretty much just talking about quantum physics and like the cool side of science, of math. And that's kind of how they approached everything. Like everything was kind of like it wrapped back into art in some way, but it was still pretty frustrating. So I haven't really talked too much about process, and I think in future videos I'll probably focus more on talking about what exactly it is that I'm doing rather than talking about random art-related subjects like critique and inspiration, motivation. Like I want to talk about both art topics and then also what I'm doing art process-wise. So you'll get like a mix of both. But the reason why I'm rotating the canvas around is for two reasons. I have more control over my hand when I'm doing a pulling motion, like I'm doing right now, than I do if I'm making a pushing motion. And that might be personal to me, that might be true for many people. It may be the opposite. I don't know if other people are better at making pushing motions than pulling motions, but for me personally, I feel like I have more control when I pull the line towards me. So I'm trying to do that, especially when I'm doing something like line work, because I'm a little bit more careful about that final ink than if I'm doing a pencil. So there, I'm rotating it around so that I can, no matter what line I'm making, whether it's this elbow line, I'm pulling it towards me. If I'm making this line, I'll be turning it that way to pull it towards me. When I'm doing the eyes, I have them like this so that I can pull them towards me in like a vertical line like this. I do the same thing when I'm doing digital art, but instead of rotating my tablet, obviously I wouldn't be doing that, I rotate the actual file in the program with the rotate tool, which is super useful. If you guys don't know about that, in Photoshop you can rotate your canvas. I believe it has to be like CS, I don't know if they did it in CS3, but I have CS4 or 5, I don't even remember. And you can rotate the canvas. I think any newer Photoshop, you can definitely rotate your canvas. So if you do find out at some point that rotating or like pulling your lines in a certain direction is easier for you, then just start doing that. Like, it's definitely good to be rotating your image around. See, I don't like that as much. I just tried to do that pushing and it didn't feel good, so I'm going to turn it this way. Do the pulling. And the other reason why I'm rotating and trying to not stick my hand in ink that I just laid down, this ink is relatively fast drying, but sometimes it's still just wet enough that it will get on like this part of my finger. and I'll set it down somewhere else. And I've done this 1,000 times. I never learn. I'm trying to be more vigilant about it. I'll pick up a little bit of ink on my hand and then I'll set it down somewhere else, and it will make a smudge. And I lose my mind a little bit, but thankfully that is something that if you have like a Photoshop or a Photoshop-like program, if you're going to be, since I scan this stuff anyway and I upload it, I will edit any mistakes that are just unforgivable, glaring mistakes in Photoshop after it's all done. So it just gives me a little bit of extra work to do, and it can be frustrating if the smudge is bad enough. It might make me have to do a lot of patching and fixing. But at least that's something that we can do because of the miracle of technology and the magic of Photoshop. If you mess up, you can fix it. Which at some point in the future I probably should talk about digital versus traditional art, at least like my opinion of it. There isn't really too much controversy about digital art at this point, I don't think. Maybe at my college every once in a while people would badmouth digital art as like a cheat way of doing things, and that was just them being ignorant, I think. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that little jump cut that's going to happen there because my storage ran out again, and I've now learned that when you delete something, it goes to a trash can folder, and that data is still there. So you have to delete the shit from the trash can for it to actually be gone, or it's still taking up space. And now I know. And that would explain why every time I took a video, I had less and less and less time before my camera told me that I'm out of room. So, you learn something new every day, and now I know. And hopefully that'll stop happening. I believe, just a moment ago before... Oh, what is happening to this pen? I believe just a moment ago I was talking about digital art and traditional art. And, oh yes, believing that digital art is somehow easier than traditional art, or that it's like a cheat. It does make certain things easier, like I think I was saying, but it is its own animal, and it has its own difficulty that comes with it, and it is something that you can master or that you can be bad at. So, just like with everything else, you know, it's not necessarily the easy route. Some people actually find it a lot harder to do digital art, or they just straight up don't like it as much. I really like flat color, so I kind of gravitated towards digital because it's about as flat color as you can ever possibly get. But, I don't know. Like I said, I think in an earlier video, the line art process in digital art is slow, so I get a little bit antsy if things aren't going fast enough, and if I don't see that final product fast enough, or like some results, you know, so you can get a little bit stressed out. So I'm back to doing ink. My husband's awake now, so if you hear a little bit more tapping than before, it's because he's got that mechanical keyboard again. Hopefully that doesn't bother anyone, and it doesn't bother me. But everyone in the house is awake now. So I feel like now I don't really know exactly what I was talking about, because I was all thrown off by that storage issue. So I guess I'll just talk about what I'm doing. Still inking, still using the Bic pen. I'm not sure how I feel about this crazy mouth, but you know, it's there. I kind of like it. It's like a graphic on a t-shirt, I guess, at this point. Still turning the canvas around a bunch of times. I've been talking a lot today, and I feel like I might finally be running out of talk steam. Which is fine. It's been quite a long recording day. I probably won't do this kind of thing again quite the same. I'll probably try to keep it more to like a sensical recording schedule of like 1 or 2 sessions in a day rather than like 4 or 5 recording sessions in a day, and churning out videos back to back to back. This has kind of more been just like a ripping off the band-aid kind of experience for me. Getting out of my comfort zone and just doing it. So that's why there's so many parts to this video out at once, because I did it pretty much in one sitting, and it's been, you know, an ongoing project. You can see that I got some ink on my finger. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm gonna try to not get that on the picture, and I just kind of rub it off. Whoop. So this is kind of starting to come together and look like an actual thing, I think. Thankfully, starting to see the end of the tunnel with this one a little bit more. She's looking all right. Relining the mouth. I do this style of mouth a lot, and just kind of a neutral mouth, I think, expression. And I think this is a style that I'm going to want to keep practicing and keep doing a little bit more of. Like I said, and I think the first part of this series, I'm going to be opening commissions soon. I already have one lined up actually before it even opened. But I wanted to do traditional art again, and so all of these images, this one, the one that you've seen, if you've seen it, in the sped up video, that one, and actually I took it out of the scanner finally. This lady here, she's going to be an example, and this lady over here, if you haven't seen her yet, is going to be examples of a full body illustration character, a to the thigh illustrated character, and then this one is to the waist. And those are, you know, 3 different options. There will be a final option aside from a chibi character, which I'll explain in a second. There'll be from the shoulders up option, so the next time I'm drawing, that's what I'm going to be doing, is the shoulders up. I don't know if I'm going to record that or not. I might do a sped up drawing of that, or I might talk like I am with this drawing. We will see. But those are the examples that I just wanted to have visual representation of those options for people, because that you know, makes it a little more clear and understandable for them. But if any of you guys out there don't know what a chibi is, it's basically like a very short, chubby version of a person. It's like a cutesy anime thing. I think a lot of people should recognize that term this day and age. Well, if you don't, there's no shame in that. I'll probably be doing an example of that in this style as well, so that I have that as an example. So I technically have 2 more pieces to do for this one project, and then I'll be able to do the kind of infographic, promotional kind of post that just lists all the prices for each of the amounts of character that you can order, and kind of what to expect that to look like, because people want to know what they're getting. And you know, art can be a little bit pricey. I actually price myself a little, I lowball myself a little bit, and here's my thought process on that. I would rather potentially get more people buying my work or commissioning me than I would have fewer people who can spend more money, buy more expensive things. Because I'll be doing more work and having more product and potentially making more money, and in the end, if I lowball myself slightly and make my prices a little bit more realistic for an average person. I think a lot of my viewership is younger people, and they don't really tend to have a ton of money to spend on artwork, so I just keep that in mind and make it a little bit more affordable for them. And I feel like if I priced myself too high, or even if I was technically pricing myself more in what it should actually be priced as, because I do put a lot of hours into my work, and I technically should be, you know, kind of trying to pay myself a decent hourly wage for how much work I do. But at the end of the day, I want people to not be scared away by like a huge price point. So that's my thought on that. You might not agree. And maybe when I get older my prices will go up, but for right now, as like such a starting out kind of commission doer, I'm just going to keep the prices kind of reasonable. I think my full body was, I think, $35 US, and then each subsequent less and less of a character was like $5 or so, $5 to $10 off, depending, somewhere around there. So, and then for 2 characters in one image, which a lot of people ask for multiple characters, each new character would just double the price or triple or whatever, however many are going on, because I feel like I'm going to put as much effort into the next character as the first one, so you just double it. And the first commission that I'm going to be doing, he hasn't told me yet what exactly he wants, as far as full body, half body, 3/4 body, but he does want 2 characters. It's actually a portrait of him and a friend of his. Hopefully he gets back to me soon on what exactly it is he wants, but I'm very patient. And there'll at least be some money coming in, because for a while now I have not really been making any money off of my artwork, and that makes me sad. So hopefully I'll get back into it a little bit more, and can feel like I'm making a little bit of money. Hopefully you guys can't tell too obviously that I'm getting tired. But it's been a long day, and I've been awake for a long time now doing these. And now it's starting to catch up to me. I don't have as much energy. So this pen that I just switched to is the Papermate Inkjoy. It's a 0.7. It's just a little clicky pen. Again, you can find these pens in any place that sells office supply type stuff. Walmart, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Target, whatever you've got going on. And it's a good gel pen. It dries pretty fast, but it does have a couple second dry time, so you can't smear your hand right over something that you've just done. And I have noticed that the dry time is longer if you're inking on top of something else. So if I'm inking on top of some thick colored pencil layer or something, sometimes it will take a little bit longer than usual to dry, and that can be dangerous. I actually smudged a drawing pretty badly a couple weeks ago, inking with this pen, which is usually pretty smudge proof. And I smudged it, and it was really bad. I had to edit it in Photoshop, and it was a little challenging. But I'm relining these lines a little bit to just darken them up a little bit more. I know it seems like I just draw over lines and again and again and again, but I have my reasons. The ballpoint pen isn't as black as this pen, and areas where I want the black to be really black, I'm going to have to go over it one more time. But she's looking good so far. I'm going to give her a little bit of outline on her eyebrows. I'm trying to make a list of things that I've mentioned that I want to talk about so that I don't forget and then not talk about them. Something else that I want to talk about in the future is kind of tying back into talking about process, more about like line weight, line art in general, stuff like that. People talk about line weight a lot as like, oh, you've got to have dynamic line weights, and what they mean by that is having thick moments and thick moments in your lines kind of gives the image a little bit more weight. In areas, you can make an area look a little heavier by making a thicker line, or more airy or delicate if you have a thinner line. Oh, see, I smudged right there. Do you see that? I wasn't thinking. I do it all the time. These gel pens are dangerous. That's something that I can edit in post. So just take it into Photoshop and do a little bit of a patch there, and that should be gone. So I definitely somewhat rely on digital editing. I don't think there's really any shame in that. It's just some people work really hard on being, good enough that they just do it once and it's good and they never have to edit anything. But sometimes mistakes happen, and I would hate for that to be something that just like ruins my day, There, so this is... I should probably wrap this up because I had told myself I was only going to do another 15 or so minutes, and we're at almost 20 minutes again. This second portion here is going to be added on to the first portion. So this is going to be a long video, but I hope you guys liked it so far. I'm a little bit tired, so I'm probably not going to record any more tonight. I'll be recording maybe tomorrow to finish this up. But until then, thank you again for watching. If you've watched all the way through this and didn't fall asleep yourself, thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one, and have a good night.